Welcome back to Ordinal Revolution. My name is Shizzy. On this channel, we cover the entire ordinal space, everything ordinals, nothing but ordinals, guys. What's going on? We're sitting here on a Friday night. We had nothing better to do than talk crypto, to talk ordinals, to talk BRC20s, to talk it all. We have an amazing discussion today. We have Charlie Spears. You guys know him. He's in the spaces with Trevor. He's in the spaces with Casey. He's always speaking. So we finally got him here to speak with us, and it's going to be amazing. He has so many projects going on. He's he is absolutely amazing with everything that he's doing, and we're really excited to start talking to him. But without further ado, let me bring in my co-host for this evening. Let me bring in Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
What's going on?
Not much. Nothing better to do than, talk about Bitcoin, ordinals, and just have a good conversation on Friday night.
Yeah, man. There's nothing better, right? Because it's we're all relaxed, it's chill, it's like the best. It's kind of like you're just talking with your friends, and I feel like this is one of the conversations that it's gonna be really really fun to listen to for everyone. So
yeah, for sure. CB Spears is definitely well known in the ordinal space. And you definitely want to listen when he talks because he has a lot of experience, especially with Bitcoin. He knows the technicals, with how ordinals works, and he's always trying to give his perspective on how things can be better, right? So I think everybody wants the space to be better, and he's definitely like a contributor in that aspect.
100%. And I feel like he's very like in the middle. Like he'll like side with Casey and them a little bit. He was on stage with Aaron and Casey, and then he does push back a little bit, which is like very respectable, even though you're on stage with them and you're kind of brought up with them. So that was one thing that I really respected. So yeah, let's get him up here, right?
Let's do it.
Charlie, what's up, buddy?
Hey guys, GM or whatever. I mean, it's always GM somewhere. Oh, hey, good to see y'all.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you bet. I was before we went live, I was telling you guys I'm really impressed by kind of just how much content you guys put out. That's and I understand you've got like full-time gigs outside of that, so I respect the grind. You guys are the nights and weekends crew. I mean, you're not here at the bottom of a crypto bear market without having some kind of like obsession over this. So we are kind of kindred spirits in a way.
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate the kind words for sure. And you're right. We do this kind of, for our hobby, and we do love it. We love the space. And so sometimes it seems like we're putting out more content because there might be like right now we're doing like the 12 days of Bison. So it's like a busier week. But we definitely are nerding out. And that's why we're here.
And just like the connections we're making with people, man. Like we have an interview with somebody, and then we're just talking. Like I've made tremendous friends that who are devs. You know what I mean? Like developers are coming to talk to me, which is just absolutely amazing, absolutely fun, and like I wouldn't want to do anything else. So
yeah. Well, I mean, let's get into it. What do you want to chat about? There's literally so many things to talk about. There's no way we could possibly fit them all in, but I'm an open book. I'd said anything's on the table. I really don't find myself too argumentative. And I got opinions, but I'm here because I care about Bitcoin in the space, and I care a lot about education. So yeah.
All right, let's just get right into it then. Yeah, let's take us back to before crypto. We want to know like the person. You want to know who Charlie is. Take us back to crypto and kind of lead us up until the first time you heard that word Bitcoin.
I come from the world of oil and gas. My family has been in the market research side of oil and gas for half a century. Wow. I ended up kind of building an interesting little product, data mining product back in the day, which I recently sold. That was a decade or so in the making, but I do have a lot of interest, a lot of side projects, but just professionally, I've been mainly focused on that. I've had some brick and mortars, a photography studio, done some media production. But Bitcoin, I rarely tell this story because there's a bit of a statute of limitations I care about, but I heard about Bitcoin a long time ago, and a lot of people found it online on maybe not the light web, but perhaps the dark web. So
Gotcha.
I'll say this: I enthusiastically donate and support Ross Ulbricht or Ross Ulbricht. How like and his and I advocate for his freedom. I owe a lot to him.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got obsessed with Bitcoin for many years and never thought, because I was not really a developer so much as I was in energy, and I thought these things would never meet. And then around 2016 or 2017, what's called the Bitcoin block size war happened. This was a very contentious time in Bitcoin, and that period taught me a lot about what Bitcoin mining is. And I got very down the rabbit hole of mining and energy. And that then led me to go, if you've heard of this kind of thing, put Bitcoin mining onto gas wells. Some people talk about flare reduction. Some people talk about in the oil field, whatever. So I've done that. I have a company, it's called Nakamotor. And we deployed some sites. And yeah, I've run a Bitcoin meetup for half a decade. That's great. I have mined a lot of Ethereum over the years. A lot of the narrative right now in Ordinals is like we hate the maxis, and I get that. I've never really identified with modern Bitcoin maximalism. That those people kind of came around 2019, 2020, and I was like, who are these people? They don't seem like very insightful Bitcoiners to me. Anyway, so uh I've touched most every blockchain. I enjoy the degenerate speculation as much as the next person. I can dive deep on most crypto protocols, but I'm really a Bitcoiner. I only really want to talk about what's happening on Bitcoin. That's kind of why I found myself actually the way I got into Ordinals. I feel like I keep having to tell the story, but um I actually kind of stumbled into as a side interest. I was listening to Casey's podcast all last year, and I was like, "Oh, he's like putting this thing out." And so I stumbled into this Discord server as he was kind of finalizing things up and tying a bow on this client which would implement ordinal theory. And pretty much since he launched it, I have been kind of uh uh in friends with him and Casey and Raph and Ornally, and there's a bunch of other people who are not as public affiliated with this, and I've just kind of tried to help him out. I don't work with him. I just was very enthusiastic as this in the side project, and we I just I was kind of there early on, got very interested in ordinals, and then um uh, because I come from mining, I was then hired by Luxor Mining to build OrdinalHub, which is owned by Luxor. Luxor's the second largest mining pool in North America. And so I actually work kind of as like business development, deal flow, a lot of market research for the mining pool. And we did such things as we mined like the Taproot Wizard, we did the D Gods block, we did um I forget like what is public. Some of the things I can't say we're affiliated with, but
Yeah.
probably if something really interesting happened in the space on a technical level, we probably were involved. And
Wow.
kind of the front facing side, and then Cypher is another kind of well known voice. He's probably the guy who actually turns all the knobs and actually does all the real shit. And there's a handful of us within Luxor. Luxor's got a bunch of different business verticals in mining, and then OrdinalHub is this Ordinals focused, like kind of like it's almost like a SEAL Team 6, but of Ordinals R&D. And so that's kind of an overview how I got here, why the hell I'm even in the world of Ordinals and scripting, and then also why I'm kind of close with Casey on a personal level, but also I've
Yeah.
been around. I've been around kind of since this whole thing was launched. I've seen it all kind of play out, and I was not really very much of a well-known voice in mining before, but because Ordinals has brought hundreds of thousands of new people into Bitcoin, I just happen to be like the guy, I guess, whoever's like, oh yeah, Charlie, he knows about Bitcoin. I'm like, dude, I'm only like 3 months ahead of you. I can barely understand this myself, drinking from a fire hose. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. That's a lot. You definitely have that extensive experience with Bitcoin. I didn't know that you were on that Luxor, Ordinal Hub team, which actually I knew that, I knew Luxor was actually getting into Ordinals, but I didn't know they actually had the Ordinal Hub. So that
Yeah.
that tells me that, like, obviously miners are, Ordinals are definitely on the radar for miners, but are they still kind of in this place to where they're just like, we need a lot more R&D to be able to make a lot more investment into it, or do you feel like they're bought in?
That's a really good question. We can talk about this a little bit, or I could talk forever about like how this works. But so the world of Bitcoin mining is very kind of separate from the world of crypto and things that happen on blockchains. They're more business people. They focus more on infrastructure and energy procurement, like contracts, public markets, capital raise, actual like engineering of sites. Like this is a side of the brain. I call it like the engineering side of the brain. And that side of the brain is not typically someone who spends like a lot of time looking online at what the cultural component of Bitcoin or crypto is. They typically aren't dialed into like how ordinals work or really even how Bitcoin works. Quite frankly, some of the largest public Bitcoin mining companies are comparatively uh, non-technical. They're comparatively unfamiliar with how Bitcoin actually works under the hood because their job is to build these giant, like behemoth data centers. And so Luxor, I've known these guys, the founders, since they were a small team, and now there's 60 of us. And Luxor has always been a very scrappy, agile company. They do a lot of things. If you're in Bitcoin mining, you know of Luxor. We've kind of written the book on a lot of new products and ideas and market research. And OrdinalHub is just another extension of that. A lot of the terms we use, a lot of the terms the news stories use to talk about how much money Bitcoin miners make this month came from Luxor. And so this is where Luxor happens to be this very agile, very hyper skilled company who's like, okay, there's something new happening in Bitcoin mining. It's relevant to us. We're going to be very strategic how we deploy and build things in there. And so that's kind of what OrdinalHub is. It's a front facing thing, but we build a lot of really cool, what I call primitives, ecosystem primitives, our own clients, our own inscription service, our own kind of custom wallet architecture, our own scripting for transaction broadcasting. And that really goes to say that I've talked to a lot of Bitcoin miners and you guys out there. And I think the whole ordinals world is like, why? Of course, Bitcoin miners want to they want to get involved. But quite frankly, there's not a lot of deep technical expertise and understanding of how ordinals and inscriptions fit into the Bitcoin business model. It's more of like a kind of weird NFT world that comes into Bitcoin. The Bitcoin miners are on this side, and they're like, "That seems cool." They don't really know how to do anything. They might like buy some rare or like sell some rare sats, but quite frankly, they're probably selling it through us because like we are the majority of the deal flow for these guys. And yeah, so I think it's going to be some time before miners at scale are able to get into the business, but Luxor has written the book on a lot of the things in the mining industry, and I think we continue to kind of define the meta and business strategy in ordinals. And yeah, so I mean, like I talk about shit on Twitter all day, right? I'm seeing the online space and stuff, but like today, for example, I actually spent a lot of time focusing on an actual Bitcoin mining deployment that we executed. And then we also have like various derivative products we offer in the Bitcoin mining space. And we're constructing interesting deals for people who are in ordinals who want to actually get exposure to hash rate derivatives. So like these are sophisticated products which go beyond just like the JPEG or the BRC20 trading, which is super fun. But this is like more material, like conventional business deal flow crossing the streams between like the online cultural speculator and the like buttoned up institutional business person. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. But like so you guys like the Luxor, so they're basically are they going through all the satoshis that they're mining? Because like
Mhm.
before you got on, I actually bought an uncommon set for $170.
Yeah.
Right? So it's one of those things where it's like that when they see the money that's coming in from ordinals and rare sats and people buying these rare sats for $170 for a satoshi that's going for what, not even a quarter of a penny, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like once they see that business model, I mean they got to be in ordinals, right?
It would be you it makes sense to you guys. You guys get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is like this is not a core business strategy. These guys focus on like,
Larger
yeah,
scale.
deals with the power utility. Like the person who
Yeah.
knows how to speak utility does not like know really anything about like how do I use Sparrow to like
Yeah.
separate
Yeah.
like that's different personality. We do all of it. So like I can go and I can talk power purchase agreements with your utility Bitcoin miner person, but then I can also be like, yeah, we've like custom built a whole like Sparrow wall. We run our own like Bitcoin core client standards rules and like put this shit into our own blocks and we do that. The thing is that we also have to think like how do we what do we build? Do we build a marketplace? Do we build like a ecosystem aggregator? Like what do we actually do? Like what is the product that we build? And we found a couple things. We do a lot of consulting. So like a lot of the projects that have happened, we've kind of helped make happen. Um, we do rare sat deal flow. We've done a lot of that. Um, kind of one of the main like things we really are good at is the actual data product. So you know how there's the Ord client you can run? Well, we've rebuilt our own Ord client and it does in a different language and we've and it actually does way more than Ord in that we index other types of data. And what's weird is this is actually very relevant because the whole reason we built this thing was to like we were like, okay, we got to index. We're probably gonna have to index op return for some reason or another. And what do you know? Casey just goes and releases some weird like new crypt, fungible
Token
token
protocol.
protocol,
Yeah.
which uses op return, which needs to be indexed. And we're like, oh, we're like already like set up to do that. So we're not currently doing it because it's very up in the air what runes even is.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like our bread and butter because we take all these pieces, we build these tools, and we put them all together over the course of several years, which augment and kind of lift up the entire Luxor business model. And yeah,
So
and that's yeah.
is there someone, so from what I'm hearing from you is that like the higher ups at Luxor don't really care about, all these narratives that are going on in ordinals. They just know that there's something there, like the hash rate has increased, that it could benefit the mining industry. And it's your job to basically, the Ordinal Hub's job to figure out all these narratives and stuff like that. But do you report to them and say, hey, these are the narratives that are really hot and we're gonna go with this? Is there like some kind of checks and balances with that, or they just don't give a shit and they trust you guys?
Luxor is a very like flat company in that the higher ups, there's some founders and they kind of have their own little like domain that they're expert of. But the higher ups are very like Luxor as a company embraces ordinals even all the way up to the top. The thing is that other mining companies, whether they're pools or like large miners themselves, they don't really have the broad expertise. Now I think that'll change because they'll need to like there's enough of like there's a big enough carrot dangling at the end of this stick, like it's profitable enough to engage in this activity, but it's almost like you need to hire somebody new. It's kind of like you need to hire somebody. I like what Chartfoo's at Magic Eden's title is. You need like a chief degen officer, and you need like a developer who understands this. And that's a little bit of what Cypher and I are. And there's a couple other developers and product managers. We're the ones who are mainly like public though. I'm the most public about it. And so yeah, Luxor embraces these. We build a lot of products, but we're very beholden to like actually building things that we think will work long term. And it's very hard because if you've been around for more than 4 or 5 months, just look at the churn in the business model.
Yeah.
Every week there's something new. And you can work 24/7 on a nights and weekends, like timely weekly show, but like look at what you were talking about 2 or 3 months ago, something totally different than today. We want to build things which we can like run multiple years. So that's
Yeah.
that's our thinking.
Yeah, it's funny that you're what you're saying with Luxor and kind of their stance on it. It's like they're kind of the only one, but they're also the second largest mining company. And the other, like, especially if you scale all the way down to like someone that owns like a single warehouse facility, right? And because my brother actually, one of his customers, my brother's in collectibles, he's really big, but one of his big customers owns a warehouse in Iowa. And I was telling my brother, I was like, we should get with David and, talk about like, trying to sift out these rare sats. And then whenever we brought that up to him, he was just like, everything else is shitcoin, Bitcoin. So I always correlated miners with laser eyes because I think the smaller mining facilities and businesses are like that because they're connecting with these laser eyes. But then whenever you scale up and you have corporations, they don't necessarily connect as much with the laser eyes. Am I right on that?
I'll actually kind of give you a different look at how I view it. Miners are actually typically not even really that online. They're really not even that plugged in. The laser eyes, when we call like somebody a laser eye, we're talking about like anywhere from like 2 to 10,000 people who are on Twitter who all have like laser eyes, and they get really pissed off if like things don't go their way, and you're not allowed to have any opinions which deviate from like the gospel that they preach. And I fall somewhere in the middle of all this. I'm
Yeah.
like, I think crypto's cool. I look across, I don't really like endorse most of it. I do use the word shitcoin for a lot of things, but I try to be very specific. Like I think shitcoin's like an actual thing. It's not like
Yeah.
not like everything's a shitcoin. Like there are shitcoins and there's like Ethereum, which is its own like robust blockchain. But I'm a Bitcoin guy and I can talk all about that. But miners are just like like not really this online component. They're more it's like the people who are in like manufacturing. They don't have like a
Yeah.
whole Twitter presence, but it's like that kind of person. Like they're just not
Gotcha.
engaged in the conversation. There are some smaller miners who are very vocal, and you know, I respect the laser eyes though, who actually do run their own facility and shit. Like they've kind of earned the ability to have those opinions
Yeah.
because like it's not easy to run a Bitcoin mine. It's like the hardest business ever. And so like those people I want like your buddy up in Ohio or Iowa wherever, if he's got stuff online, he's made it through this bear market so far, shout out him. He's
Yeah.
allowed to be angry at stuff. I'll be like, yo, I want to
He-
have an olive branch and say,
yeah,
look,
yeah,
like you be a little more inviting, be a little more
yeah,
open minded here.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
and and he's a really cool guy. It's funny because like he gambles on like he buys like thousands of dollars on like boxes of sports cards for my brother.
The same goddamn thing.
Yeah, yeah, but like
Yeah.
then like when we talk about like tokens and stuff, he's just like, come on, man, just I don't
That's what I'm
want anything besides Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But like, of course, we joke about laser eyes, but like we have friends that are laser eyes, but like, obviously like some people can cross the line, but
Oh,
at
some
the
of
end
them
of the
do, and I don't
yeah,
like it. I don't like that.
yeah,
I don't like that
Yeah.
voice. Yeah.
But
for
like
sure.
that's the thing though, is like in 2012, 2013, the laser eyes were the degens, right? The degens move innovation, right? Without degens, there is no innovation. Like there's nothing. Like without, obviously in 2010 you had the cypherpunks and like the guys who were really in it for the change in the world. But when it really picked up was when the degens came in 2012 and 2013, and they were buying it because price go up, right? Number go up. And like that's kind of what we do here with these other innovations. But like yeah, we're gambling on this potential bitmaps and these potential other things, but that could change the way metaverse is, and that could change the way it could. There's so
Sensitive
many
word.
changes that could happen. Well,
Well,
speaking of bitmaps, I'm curious of
yeah.
your opinion on that.
Oh, this is funny. This is the I haven't voiced kind of my current view on it much lately, because I look I like to try to be transparent about my opinions. I typically want things to be designed well and communicated well. This is why I'm critical of things which I don't think make sense. This is why I'm critical of BRC20. Like I was very critical of it, but like I also recognize like these are valid inscriptions. People want to put money to it. I want like I wanted to distinguish my criticisms from my welcoming people into Bitcoin, come do fun shit on Bitcoin. I want to these are two ideas which can coexist on bitmaps. Is funny because, dude, I thought bitmaps was the dumbest fucking thing like back in May, June, and I actually think it probably was. And I think that's probably because I think most people thought it was like an actual fucking map, and it's
Like
it,
geographical map?
yeah, people would be taking Mononauts like structure visualization of a block and saying this is the map. Like, well, no, this is like some guy's like representation of it.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really dumb. So
Yeah.
I said, whatever, it's really dumb. You're free to do whatever you want. But what's funny is so many people have been building in the bitmaps ecosystem that you can't deny it. And weirdly enough, it's almost like we've come full circle where I do strongly believe that social consensus, even if I think it's a dumb thing to have consensus around, it can like grow into something robust and meaningful. And bitmaps has weirdly enough come full circle where like everybody like knows kind of like the main rules of bitmap, and they're building different like products and tools in the space, and you have some really sharp like competent developers building things in bitmap, and it's become weirdly enough like this like quasi namespace for blocks.
Yeah.
And it's stuck around and people still really want to use it. So I think it's both dumb, and I also think dumb things can become really like interesting
Yeah.
and compelling. So I hold both these ideas in my brain, and maybe as time goes on I'll evolve or change them. But yeah, bitmaps. Go ahead, do
Yeah.
more bitmaps. I will say this though. I was bringing this up at the very beginning, and I think the bitmap people need to hear this because they're only they only for some reason only kind of recently wrap their heads around this. Is that if bitmaps actually takes off, further than it already has, and Bitcoin miners actually have to like and like actually value bitmap, like getting the block number dot bitmap. This becomes MEV very quickly. If you're familiar with MEV,
Yeah.
it's a
Meta.
broad term to say Bitcoin block producers, pools, Bitcoin miners produce blocks a certain way. What's going to happen is that Bitcoin miners will just front run everyone else by including the bitmap in the block they mine.
Yeah.
And that's just a structural problem. I don't think it'll happen for a while, but like this is the thing.
Yeah.
We could be doing this right now as Luxor. We could in Luxor blocks, we could be winning all the bitmaps.
Yeah.
We just like don't. It's like an extra variable we don't want to deal with. It's not really priority, and it's optically bad. Like if we were just doing that for like 4 or 5 bitmaps a day, what's that like?
Well, no, it's
$100?
144 a day, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but we only get like 3 to 5 of them.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a few. It's like a few $100 max. Like it's not
Yeah.
worth our reputation and our kind of designing our blocks differently to do it. So that's my only like thing about bitmaps. Like I think it's really cool, but it is subject and structurally vulnerable to MEV.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's fine though, because we want to encourage the miners to do that, because we want the miners to make money on this. We want the miners to secure the network. So if they're getting the money from the bitmaps, I'd rather them do it than Jared from Subway. So it's like, but like seriously, I'd
Dude, I
rather
love
the
this take.
miners.
I love this take, Shizzy. That
Yeah,
makes a lot of, yeah.
but seriously, I think that I'm okay with the miners grabbing these bitmaps as soon as they are and then putting them on the market, because the
Secondary.
miners might not sell them right away either. They might hold them for just like they hold Bitcoin. When they get a Bitcoin, they don't sell it right away. They hold them, and then when the bull market hits, they start selling them, which takes some off the market. Because right now you're seeing 100 popped on the market every single day. So to me, go ahead, miners, do that.
Damn, Shizzy,
Thank you.
that's a really interesting take, and you're making me think about this differently now. So
Yeah,
that is
and
interesting, because there's like bitmaps follows a rule structure, and it's
Yeah.
it's almost like buying having a Bitcoin and stacking them. That's a crazy take. You are helping evolve my view of bitmaps live here on the
And
show.
And one thing other about bitmaps too is like bitmaps now has a built-in community, right? So if
Yeah.
you're a metaverse, why would you start your own when you can just already jump into an already built community and
Yeah.
build
open
inside there?
source too.
Yeah,
It's open source.
it's open source, and yeah, it's just like some of these companies like are centralized, like Expectar and IMSO Chris. But that's fine, because they're coming into an already built community, and they're saying, "Hey guys, come to us." And me being a
You don't
bitmapper
have
is like,
yeah.
"Let's go. I'm gonna
You can
follow
choose
that guy."
whoever you want. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's like one of the points I was making is like, I have opinions. I've said things about it. I said I think it's dumb, but like, yeah, you've built it. It's manifested. Nobody owns it. It's evolving consensus.
Yep.
That's a big deal. Even if like the fact that you're able to not even manufacture, but like come to group consensus about anything is unbelievable. And because that's all Bitcoin is at the end of the day. We have rule sets, we have math. We say it's backed by math, but that math is backed by more human consensus.
Yeah.
And so it is consensus all the way down. And if it's just a bunch of people saying, it doesn't matter if Charlie Spears thinks the rules are dumb, we're going to play by the rules, and people want to participate in the game of collecting bitmaps, they have to play by the rules. That's unbelievably powerful. So,
Yeah.
damn,
You said
that's a good
it's a
take.
game. It's a game. This is all a game. It's a
Yeah.
fun game. Metaverse is a game. Buying these bitmaps is a game. Holding these bitmaps is a game. It's all gamified. And we're here to have fun. Like I don't do this. I don't do this to make a shitload of money. I do this to I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah.
So if I want to participate and kind of and do the inscribe, or there's a whole bunch of other people that are doing cool stuff where you can build these little worlds. It's like
Yeah.
playing Xbox.
I think
That's an interesting
actually
take.
I think someone's actually already botting them, by the way.
Yeah.
And so I will say that there was some
Hi, Jared from Subway.
there was some pushback from the bitmap community whenever they figured out that people were botting them, right? So I'm in the like for me, I agree with Shizzy and yourself. Well, I don't know if you agree with it, where the miners, because maybe Luxor has too much of their name on the line, but like smaller miners could easily do this and not give a shit, because they're like, no one cares about, like, I don't care about what people think about me on X, so they could do it. But the kick, the pushback from the community could come out, but at the end of the day, like, they won't even know who's doing it. So
If they're all doing it, then it's
yeah,
huge. It's a few here, a few there, and they're just stacking them, so they're not hitting the market right away. It's like it's
it
fine.
will
That's the
happen
way I
too.
want it to be.
It will happen too if the value of bitmaps go up with the bull run. There will be the smaller miners that do front run it. I mean, it's just
And
inevitable.
Bitmaps is helping secure the network because they're putting money in these miners' pockets.
Yo, that's what I say. That's why I say a lot of people like shitting on BRC20s. I shit on BRC20s, but I only let it get so far. I say, like, I think this is this, like, BRC20s are structurally broken, but the fact is that people are spending money on Bitcoin. They're trading it. They're trading it like real assets. They care about it. And I'm a miner. I want people to use Bitcoin. If they're using it for things I think are dumb, that's actually a strength of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is stronger if somebody is using it in a way I don't think is like that great. If anything, that's like the most validating thing of Bitcoin for me, is to see people using it in ways that I disagree with. This is what the maxis get wrong. This is what the laser eye maxis get wrong. They think everybody has to use Bitcoin a certain way. And they preach Bitcoin as this immutable, sensible network. And the best example of an immutable, permissionless network is that somebody you hate is using it, and that you can't stop them. Like, that is what being a Bitcoiner is. So like, if I have a platform, it's like, if I want people to be using Bitcoin in ways that I don't like, because that's the biggest validation of this network, that I don't control it, Casey doesn't control it, Satoshi doesn't control it. So, that's like my view.
And that's the thing. If like Tendy started using bitmaps, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, I'm done. Well, I'm out.
He's come around. Like, he's
like, I don't know. I don't think he said one good thing about bitmaps.
Dude, he shits on them all the time, but he's like he used to only hate them. Now he's like this goofy like comedian on it. Yeah.
I feel like he's a comedian all the time. I've never heard him being serious. But speaking of BRC20s and the ordinal space in general, I'll start here. So you've been in the ordinal space since the beginning, and so you've seen the evolution, and it's gotten people that started on Bitcoin like myself in 2013 that I dabbled with it, and then went to the other chains, and then found my way back when Ordinals came out, because I was just like, okay, this is great. We can build on Bitcoin again. But then there's this like little fear in the back of my mind that says, is this going to be another like counterparty situation? Is it going to be another colored coin situation to where like, you have these Bitcoiners that like really didn't want, those type of things built, and the core code messed with, or it didn't want it updated to satisfy the innovation. How do you feel about this round? Do you feel like this is actually different, and the building will continue this time?
If you're asking like, do I think this era of innovation will continue? I strongly believe that. I've intentionally pivoted my career to focus on this, and bet on this thesis. I think a lot of us are in this audience who's listening to this, you guys probably too, focus only on ordinals, but there's so much happening across all of Bitcoin. And it's all happening at the same time. It's as if like everybody got together and said, okay, we're going to put like this era of discouraging new things on Bitcoin. We're going to put that behind us, and we're going to start like actually shipping new things. And so we're seeing that across Bitcoin right now. I don't know if you've said on this podcast, but I would be putting your eyes on RGB right now for the 2024 cycle. It's not a cryptocurrency. It's a protocol. It's not even a layer 2. It's like an abstraction from Bitcoin.
Could you explain what that is really quick for people that
RGB? It stands for real. It's a dumb name. It stands for really good Bitcoin. It was actually started by a lot of what are now hardcore laser eye maxis in 2015, 16, and it really wasn't. It took forever to develop, and only this past spring did they kind of really reach a place where it could be shipped, and there's products and wallets built on it. In short, RGB allows what is called client-side verification of smart contracts, and it uses Bitcoin's existing UTXO model. Does not require soft fork. You can do smart contracts through Bitcoin RGB, and this is huge. Remember when Tether was launched on Bitcoin?
Yeah,
on the Omni network in like 15 or so, and it just kind of went. The activity dwindled down and down and down. And when Tether officially left Bitcoin 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was a press release. They officially deprecated the Tether on the Omni network. Nobody used it. And in this press release, and I think people who pay attention saw this, Tether said, we are looking specifically at technologies like RGB, which would be vastly superior of putting Tether back on Bitcoin. And I think you can apply this to a lot of interesting things. So RGB may not be the story of 2023, but I think it could be the story of 2024. But there's a lot of things like this. There's Taproot assets, there's Mutiny Net, there's space chains, spider chains. The drive chains are back in the menu, side chains, like all these things are back in the Bitcoin discourse. because Casey had this weird fucking idea to put for this like Ordinals thing, and just like now everybody's like, oh, it's open season, I'm gonna throw a bunch of new ideas at the wall. It was just like people just were not talking about these things. The narrative became that Bitcoin is a dumb network, that Bitcoin can't do anything, and I'm like, it probably can't do some things. But a year ago today, people said you couldn't put NFTs on Bitcoin. Now it's all anybody talks about.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
do you think that the the powers to be, whoever that is, that will vote and decide, okay, for example, like with drive chains, I heard that they, you have to update the core to be able to get that going, right? I mean, do you think it's going to happen though? Because there's a lot of politics involved with this, right? Within the Bitcoin world, right?
dude, I mean, you want to spend the next 5 hours talking about it? Oh man, I have to give you a history lesson, basically. I mean, look, this is the most interesting it's been in years.
Sure.
I talk about the block size war from like 15 to 17, and I think a lot of people thought, oh, the block size war ended and that was it. Like late 2017, it's over, it's all resolved. I actually think the block size war caused a lot of the way that stuff gets added to Bitcoin or Bitcoin evolves. It caused a lot of evolution to stall. And some people would say that's a really good thing. Some people say it's a bad thing. I don't say either. I just think it's been only 13 years, 14 years since Bitcoin started. And I think it's got 100 years or more to exist. So it's so early in its story. Why would we be so prideful and to think that we know what it is? So there are more people proposing upgrades or soft forks or things to Bitcoin than ever. And there are some people who govern kind of the process for the way these proposals get included. But also it's an open network. Anybody can go run any version of Bitcoin they want. The problem is all the other nodes which are running these people's version of Bitcoin won't like relay those or validate those blocks. But like Ordinals added another 10% of Bitcoin nodes on the network from people who come from outside the ecosystem. I think it demonstrated very empirically, very directly, that at any moment, a bunch of new people could come in and have a different opinion about how Bitcoin works. And maybe they like drive chains. Maybe they want drive chains, and maybe they want to run nodes which soft fork into allowing drive chains. And I think that gets a lot of people like me who probably a year ago were thinking like, Bitcoin probably won't change. I wish it would, but it probably won't. That gets people like me thinking, oh, maybe we can actually do some stuff to this blockchain. Maybe we can actually move it forwards. And so I don't expect drive chain to succeed or be I don't expect us to soft fork for drive chain. I would not be surprised to see though things like drive chain be developed and come forwards and cause interesting forward movement in the protocol itself. So it's kind of like Ordinals, like, right? There's like Casey's got this GitHub repo that he and Raf control and they develop, but anyone can fork it. Like we forked it. We run a different version. We've done something totally different.
Yeah.
But like, people look to Casey and he and Raf control the keys of merging on the Ord reference client repo. And so everybody wants to use that. And now we're entering it like interesting, like it's a new interesting like era of disagreement. Like they have the reference client, everybody wants to use it, and anybody can fork it. He doesn't have to. We don't have to agree with Casey's vision on inscription renumbering. Everyone can just go not upgrade the client and go develop their own. But like what we want is we don't want to split.
No.
We want to avoid that. And
we want social consensus. We want everyone to
maybe there's a process through which various different things. Let's put inscription numbering over here. Just forget about it now. Like other upgrades to Ord. Like what if we want to do things like that? How does that happen? well, maybe there's some kind of more formalized or refined governance process to here's an idea, review it, put it into Ord, everybody agrees, updates their Ord client. Very similar consensus. I wrote an article for Bitcoin Magazine this past week where, like, at the top, I was like, if you weren't around in 2011 to 2012, 13, like, just come to Ordinals. We're speed running Bitcoin consensus. As we're doing the same thing with a different client. It's the whole same thing. Same game theory, same everything. It's wild because it just feels like we're back in like 2010 again for me. So
What are the chances Drive Chain gets passed? Because I don't see the laser eyes or the miners actually passing that. Because that's something that has to be voted on the network. I think it's less than a 5% chance. And I think we have a better shot at something like ZK rollups instead of Drive Chain.
ZK rollups are
being
already
the layer 2.
happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to get
less.
approval. So that's what I was going to bring up. And Ordinals actually was like Casey's way of going around, getting the core updated. And so, for me, I think it's, first of all, amazing how it worked out that way, that he was able to do a workaround, and then we were able to build these amazing things on here. But again, he didn't have to get, he didn't have to update the core for that. So
Well, they did with Taproot. They just didn't know what they were agreeing to.
So
Yeah,
you could actually do inscriptions before Taproot. You could do it on
Yeah,
segregated
SegWit.
witness. You could do it in
SegWit.
2017.
But not
This
the
is-
same as we're doing it today.
Not the same. No, not the same.
Yeah.
But you could put the same type. You could put a JPEG on Bitcoin. Then
There was already inscriptions, wasn't there?
Pepe's, yeah.
I mean, kinda. A lot of it we actually don't know because there's like this is one of the crazy things about Bitcoin. Like, even though a Bitcoin full node's like a computer like this big, there's so much shit on there we probably haven't even looked at because people like, oh, Bitcoin is just for financial transactions. What if people have been putting inscription like things on Bitcoin for a long time? We just haven't like parsed them right. What if like people put messages in op return, right? I've been putting messages in op return since like 14 or 15, since it was a thing. But like we don't like index, people don't really index those. People don't like put like a website of here's everything that's been put in an op return.
That'd be pretty cool though.
Is it muted though, or is it like marked as spam?
Well, you can mark it as spam or prune it if you want. But like the thing is, nobody's really, as far as I'm aware, really like done a concerted effort at this.
Yeah, they don't care.
Probably
about
because
it.
like no one's really used it. Opportunity's
Yeah.
been this like fun, goofy little messaging thing which allows counterparty and other stuff. But like, what if there's more material stuff in there? We built our Ord fork called Gord. It's not even a fork; it's a whole rebuilt client. We built it with this in mind. Like, okay, Bitcoin's going to get way more complex at the data layer, whether it's op return, whether it's inscriptions, whether it's rollups. We want to collect this data and plug it into everything we do. So what if we did some history? What if we did some archaeology? And maybe we could dig something up that people were putting in on Bitcoin like 7 or 8 years ago. I will say this, I'll tease this. I don't know if this will ever see the light of day, but Cypher discovered some interesting stuff that I've never seen before in Bitcoin's data layer from like 7 or 8 years ago.
Interesting.
And this is something maybe we'll do a write up on it. We're still we haven't had a lot of time to like dig deep in, but like, dude, shit, like Bitcoin's way more like interesting, complex, and storied than a lot of people realize. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners don't know it because they're narrow minded. They think it only looks like this. So
could you technically transfer it? Can you technically transfer that data into like a wallet?
You could pull it, you could index it, kind of like the Ord client does. It's a separate client. You could pull it, throw it into a database.
That could be a market, man. Like archaeology of Bitcoin.
Messages of the minds, right?
Like, finding it could have some value there. What were you gonna say, Shizzy?
No, it's kind of like messages of the minds, right? Because like I think it was 8-bit. I was on the Spaces and he was going back and like reading things from like it was like 8-9 years ago that was actually in this exact thing you're talking about, the op return, and it was just people saying, "Hey, like look this up," and it was like
Yeah.
Bitcoin
There's a-
CEO or CEO of an exchange jumped out of an 8-story window. You know,
Yeah.
that's in the messages
Yeah.
of the mines.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. You can like look at all this stuff in the past. This has been on Bitcoin. Just nobody really. It's just not been part of the narrative.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think this is a much bigger. Like it's much bigger than just JPEGs. I love my JPEGs, love my PFPs, but like this is so much bigger. This is all data. This is all
Yeah.
information. Not like all data has to go on a Bitcoin. No, but like this is a very interesting way where we will discover what the most valuable 200 gigabytes a year of humanity are, and we'll put them in Bitcoin. And some of them will be PFPs and JPEGs, but some of it will be like WikiLeaks stuff. Some of it will be like sovereign, like countries, like declaring their independence. Some of it will be like people wanting to preserve their like documentation. These things are going to go in inscription like structures on Bitcoin in the future.
Yeah.
That's why it's so
exactly.
big.
Like someone like Snowden can go and drop something that's going to be there forever. It's going to be in inscription 35,776 forever. You know, it's like
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and then we'll renumber. But I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like you can change the number, but you can't change the inscription. The inscription's there whether or not we have it at inscription 35 million or 100 million.
Yeah.
Like that's the power of it. Is it's on Bitcoin.
Imagine if you got like that original inscription transferred to your wallet, like Snowden trying to drop that like message, or somebody trying, and then like somehow you got it into your wallet. That would be amazing. But
oh man.
So I kind of want to talk about a little bit of some of the drama that's been going on in the ordinal space recently.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Like we obviously we have a show, so like we talk about everything in the space, and it's something that we've kind of been able to kind of poke at a little bit recently, and so I wanted to know what your perception was, since you've been in the beginning since Ordinals has started. It seems like Casey created this space for what he envisioned to be kind of like this marketplace for really great digital art. And that idea just got kind of taken from him, from like all these other builders that started coming in. And at first it was people that were trying to put PFPs and art and stuff on here. Then that expanded to BRC20s in March. And maybe he wasn't very comfortable about that, just because, but like in my mind, he had to have known that was going to be the evolution, right?
Dude, nobody imagined fungible tokens of Bitcoin because of inscriptions. I guarantee you that. Nobody, Casey didn't, I didn't, nobody, none of the smart people working on it. That hit all of us like blindsided. So I will make that statement pretty unequivocally. Like nobody expected it. Yeah.
So Domo just came up with a knockout punch, right? Is that what you're saying?
Dude, I don't think Domo knew what he was doing either. I like Domo actually as a person. I think he's shepherded he's done an incredible job navigating this very complex world. I don't think Domo expected, because like when I don't know if you look back, but like 2 days after he dropped the standard, I actually wrote a blog post about it for OrdinalHub, kind of reviewing the standard, talking about it, saying, well, it's interesting, it's a fun little idea. I don't think it'll go anywhere. It's structurally runs into these issues. Don't buy any BRC20 because whatever. And it kind of went on for a couple months. Nobody really paid attention. It was mainly some Asian degens. And it fucking blew up like end of April. BitGod is at the explodes into the scene. And then and you know the rest. Like there's all the different tokens, the narratives. And I really don't think anybody knew what was going on, because I had dinner with Domo in Miami in the middle of May, like peak BRC20 like mania, right? And we were both like, I think, reeling from this like reality. I went to Miami for like what I thought was gonna be ordinal stuff, and that's all we talked about was BRC20 stuff. So this is the thing, is like, and this is, Casey spends years building this idea of what
Yeah.
ordinals inscriptions are, and he kind of puts out into the wild. There's a few dozen of us, and then it just something happens and it catches on, and it explodes. And I think a lot of people think that Casey's brilliant, and he's an unbelievably sharp programmer, but he's also a human, as am I. And this is a thing, like, he has been a very hardcore Bitcoiner for so long, but he's not, I wouldn't say he's a laser eye. He's just a hardcore Bitcoiner. And he comes out with this thing and it becomes unbelievably popular. And it's not the people who he thinks are gonna like it who flood in. And it is just emotionally and socially draining to have to like deal with the amount of inquiry and influx, because he's kind of like done this, he's kind of incubated this idea with a handful of friends who like thought this was an interesting side project for a long time. And then also, like, you can't understate the rift that it created in the Bitcoin community. Like, a lot of the brilliant heroes that like I've looked up to over the years, and I think Casey even more so, they have all started arguing with each other. And it's almost like, imagine you spend a decade in this space and you build these relationships and these like people who you think are your heroes, and then like something you do in good faith, in good intention, becomes like the subject and the focus of like a rift and a split. And I think it's been very difficult for a lot of us to like kind of like ride this wave of us saying, no, this is Bitcoin, this is cool, we like this, and have it be opposed and shit on by all the toxic maxis. um I still think a lot of the toxic maxis are actually right about a lot of the stuff. I will go to bat on that. But like, man, it like, you know if you notice, Casey was not like super public a lot of this past summer.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, because he's a personal friend, I want to be considerate here, but
Mhm.
like, it's just not been a fun time to be a public person in a lot of these cases. Like, you bring on so much scrutiny, so much like attention. And what we've seen is, in the past month, Casey went from kind of contributing to GitHub, um, you know, putting a couple small updates here and there. Now he's back. He's out there. He's it's almost like this whole runes idea. It's kind of a spur of the moment, like, well, if people like BRC20s, then here's an idea. Maybe it's better. Maybe they'll like it more. It's almost like full circle on accepting the idea that degens are going to degen, so he may as well provide what he thinks is a more responsible treatment to the Bitcoin network itself. And if I could kind of condense what I think runes is, it's like Casey saying, well, okay, I've got these ideas. BRC20 is obviously super popular. Casey and all of us have a bit of a degen bone in ourselves. Um, well, okay, here's an idea. It's called runes. Here's a half baked blog post. Maybe it becomes a thing. And then obviously became a thing. So he's like, okay, well, I'll go throw up a GitHub of like, and let's try to design what this actually looks like. Let's actually try to create a spec. So I think that's what's happening. And it's, if you view it through that lens, I think a lot of Casey and a lot of probably people who are close to him like me, I think a lot of our actions and voice on these topics might make a little more sense. If you view us more as humans rather than like these master planning, masterminded, like giga brains who have a whole plan and strategy and ulterior motives. No, we are just weird nerds who got into all this weird stuff over the past few years, and we're like, here's an idea, throw it out there. But now the community is very unpredictable.
Yeah.
We have no idea who's gonna take something and run with it. So
Yeah.
I would
Well,
say read Casey's blogs. You'll hear his voice in his blogs, and you'll like get to wrap your head around things rather than hear other people talk about what they think Casey is thinking.
yeah. And I think with because the inscription number reordering was like almost 2 weeks ago, and then this kind of happens like a week after. I think that was a lot for the community, but at the same time, I from what you just told me, I think I'm getting a little bit more clear of a picture of what Casey's dealing with on a personal level, right? So he's trying to satisfy two different groups of people too, which his roots, kind of like the Bitcoiners, and then this community that his protocol has kind of built.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense to me. It doesn't seem like he's just trying to jump in and say, this is how it's going to go and this is how it's going to go. It's like, now that I have more of that backstory, I can kind of be more empathetic towards him.
Yeah. Oh, I'll push back. I will argue that this is like I'll push back on the narrative that this is like Casey trying to rug people or trying to be or trying to like break things that he doesn't like. I'll push back on that pretty hard. But what I will do is I'll embrace the criticism, because I have this criticism of him and I think people have a just criticism of me on this, is that we need to do much better at communicating how we're thinking, why we're thinking it, putting like here are statements. We're gonna I say we because I don't build the actual protocol. Like telegraph the moves. Here's ways for you to participate in the public discussion, and yeah, to have like very rapid things which kind of cause so much community pushback. I think those could be avoided, or I could be so much better at communicating. Like one of the reasons I think we have so much dispute on the inscription numbers is because like it's really hard to communicate the technical complexity that is going on about how the protocol works, and most people don't understand that. And the reason they don't understand it is because Casey and a lot of us have not really been able to broadcast and explain how all this shit works and why it makes it harder for it to work if we keep inscription numbers. But like also, it's kind of beyond Casey. Casey is the figurehead, but it's bigger than him now. It's bigger than all of us. Where like there's not just one podcast talking about it with one opinion. There's not just the Ordinals show or just Casey's blog. Now there's 30 different productions, 10 different spaces. There's always somebody talking about it. You can't possibly follow the entire ecosystem. It's bigger than any one person now. And so that's, all you put all these things and you kind of put them into a pot and you stir them around and you get whatever the Ordinals ecosystem looks like right now. But yeah, I think communication, man, that was one thing early on that I was trying to push for, which we didn't really get a whole lot of. Specifically with regards to documentation, that's one thing where I and some other people in the Ordinals community disputed a lot. I was pushing a lot for documentation, and we didn't further develop it. And I think we're reaping that what we sowed back in March and April back then. The fact that we failed to address the inscription numbering debate then has caused the situation we're in now, and we can only move forwards. So yeah.
It makes sense. It's a lot to take in. So
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like when you said the Casey came with this other idea. So basically, the idea of runes is basically just colored coins, right? It has a lot to do with that, and has a lot to do with the new protocol ARC20, because it's really similar to that. It came out 2 weeks before Casey had this amazing idea of runes. So my question to you
Dude, I
is,
actually don't know enough about our ARC20 to really talk about it very much.
well, lucky you.
Yeah.
We just did a video with him yesterday.
I
It's
know,
on
I
the
need to
Ordinal
watch
Revolution
it, dude.
podcast.
I went through documentation a little bit. I kind of was like, okay, they're trying to hash, like, they're trying to like come up with like prefixes or specific like nonces or whatever. But I really haven't had time to like sit and kind of marinate on it.
Gotcha.
I'm not actually sure how close to Atomical's runes is. I do know that they both store the data in the op return. But other than that, like, I'm not sure what else. They both use a primary UTXO model.
Yes.
So like it exhausts the UTXO on each transaction, which I think that is, if UTXO bloat is part of the problem, that's going to solve some of that, right? So it's definitely interesting. I definitely recommend that you look into it, because it seems like the developer that we interviewed yesterday was very knowledgeable in it. He's been planning this for a while. There's a mining system to be able to mint tokens, so it's not like you can go in there and just deploy and mint them all.
Which I think is cool. I like this. I think proof of work as a underpinning mechanism for like probabilistic uh production of like anything, blocks or hashes. I think proof of work is an incredibly fair and egalitarian mechanism to build those kind of things. So that's what I at least like. That's one of my takeaways from ARC20. I haven't really been able to like look at it that much, and I'll also say this. I don't know if Casey's even discussed this very much, but because of Bitcoin's UTXO model, even Casey's better version of runes is still really not that great of a system for fungible tokens, like compared to the other things which already exist or are about to exist. And this is where like the RC20 is over here. I think it does break long term in its current form. Runes, at least Casey's, what it looks like Casey's implementing for runes is over here. It's like it kind of preserves the UTXO set. It condenses things. It seems a little more reasonable, but like all of this stuff is still not really like the best way to do fungible tokens. I would point to RGB or taproot assets. These are things which are explicitly referred to. Domo refers to in the first fucking 2 sentences of the BRC20 handbook, specifically taproot assets is a better is better for fungible tokens. But on the other hand, taproot assets have not been adopted. It's not ready. It's not live. Like I hope, if anything, all of this arguing over BRC20s, runes, whatever, I'm in here criticizing everything and having a blast doing it. I hope, if anything, it just lights a fire under the ass of people who are building these things to get them done, to get them shipped, to get investors to put money in the space. Because we can argue all we want about like this protocol, that protocol, Casey's doing rugging this or whatever. The big narrative should be that there's hundreds of millions of dollars in fungible tokens on Bitcoin now, and people want to do this. And what I think that there's a ton of money to be made if you want to do it in a better way. That's taproot assets. That's RGB. Perhaps that's other protocols which I haven't listed. Like that's the narrative. The narrative isn't runes versus BRC20. I hope these two things both grow and create net new wealth for everybody. And then I hope all that net wealth then bridges to like taproot assets or something, where it's like not an insane way to structure this fungible token protocol. That's my like big take.
I feel like when Domo wrote the BRC20 thing and said, do not buy these, they'll be worthless. The degen and everybody was like, oh, and then they went all in at that point. They're like, that's cryptic. This is gonna take off,
But there's an honesty in that and being like, that's kind of why degens like it, because they're like, well, it's honest. The BRC20 mint process, it's fair. Like a person who's non-technical can read a BRC20 inscription and be like, oh, I see what that does. They can't go and look at CBOR on taps and figure all that stuff out. No, you can go look at the inscriptions in your wallet and be like, oh, this is the thing I sent to that person. And that's powerful. I think it's really dumb that it got so popular, but it's powerful. It's hard to measure it, but it's either 100 million to 800 million dollars of market cap across these assets. And that's a lot. I think it could be billions of dollars. And I just hope that we don't fumble the ball on like doing it a smart way.
Yeah.
So
I think we are in a perfect time. We are about 6 to 8 months away from the halving. This is the exact time for all this to be happening, right? So this stuff can't happen in 8 months. It has to happen right now.
yeah,
And just like if you go back to 8 months before DeFi summer, it was the same situation. Like they didn't know what was going to stick, what was going to work. They were putting out bad implementations and but that everything grew from
there's
that. And
like
I
the
kind of
food
see
DeFi era, like the fucking yams and stuff. I remember that.
but like everything's going to grow from that. Yeah, that was some terrible ideas, but we learned a lot, and we kind of took that and then experienced what DeFi is today. And DeFi isn't anywhere what it's going to be in 5 years from now. Hopefully, that DeFi is on Bitcoin, the real chain that's not ran by AWS. But so I just think that we are at a perfect time for all this to be happening. This is amazing, and it's quiet. Nobody's paying attention to us. No one's flooding us from other chains. Like this is absolutely perfect timing.
You
Yeah,
can only FUD Bitcoin so much. I feel like can't really.
dude. Yeah, if come up with some FUD for Bitcoin that I haven't heard before, I challenge you.
Yeah.
We've been trial by fire. We live in FUD. That's all we ever hear. We only hear FUD, and then like at the top of 2017 or the top of 2021, all our friends and family
Yeah.
call us and like, what should I do? It's like buy Bitcoin, and they stop talking to you. And then at
Yeah.
100K Bitcoin, they're gonna call and ask what they should do, and you're like, buy
Mhm.
Bitcoin. They'll call you all the way up to $10 million Bitcoin, and they will just, nobody will ever listen. They'll buy it when they have to, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to our last subject.
Yeah.
The base community would kill me if I didn't talk to you about Quadkey. So we'll jump
Yeah.
into that. So because all those guys, base guys, I mean, we got Block and Eric
Yeah.
and all those guys, BRC 20 coins and Bean. But so let's get into that. Where are we? Like what is Quadkey and
What
where
is
are we at
Quadkey?
right
Where
now?
it's at? What are we doing? Yeah. Quadkey is a fun product. So I talk about like OrdinalHub, Luxor is building a bunch of primitives.
Yeah.
And a lot of these primitives go under the hood. Like one of those core things was how do we develop you might use the term meta protocol. I would say specific enveloping architecture and MIME type embedding into the inscription envelope. These are weird technical things. Most people don't care or know about that. They care like, oh, there's like a new meta protocol standard. We have that plus an building and basically battle testing an inscription service, as well as we want to put out some product that we can, like some product or standard which we can throw out there, see how it does, test the waters, and then come back and see if we want to like expand on it. So this was a way for us to combine all these things, which we've been building some primitives. How do we actually put those into production? How do we give our graphic design guys something to do? How do we give the product manager something to do? How do we do like a wallet connect? Like what is a product we can throw out there to continue to develop? And that was Quadkey. And we talked about this a bit about how Quadkey works under the hood. It's both a way for us to say, here is a fun open standard for inscribing according to some kind of geographic mapping structure. So you can do that. You go through our site, quadkey.com. We make it very simple to inscribe the specific structure of a quad key. The very unique thing, and this is where a lot of people didn't read the docs or were not familiar, is that in order for us to consider something to be a valid quad key, we have to have a specific line in there which includes the specific MIME type and what we're calling it like a sub envelope identifier QEY key. And so anyone can do it. You have to run like your own kind of custom version of the Ord client. So you got to be technical, but anyone can inscribe a quad key. Just we make it really easy. We charge anywhere from 1 to 3,000 sats, like for our cut per quad key. It's not like a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. So we put this out there. We're like, let's throw it out there. And then unfortunately, the entire Luxor company had to go to Lisbon, Portugal for an on-site 2-week time. So we lost all of our developers because we were all having to do specific, like all company stuff. Luxor's a distributed company. We launched Quadkey a week before. We weren't able to like be as hands-on. So we came back, but we let Quadkey kind of run for a bit. Let's see. Here's a thing. Here's an open standard. Here's an API endpoint. Anybody wants to build something, go ahead. And so right now we're focused on expanding. I mean, I can talk about this. We're expanding our particular inscription service to handle in like industrial scale inscription activity, not like I won't say any other people who have inscription services because I like them in person, but like there's some other inscription services and they kind of break once you do like 5 to 10,000 inscriptions at a time. We're building something which is kind of institutional, hundreds of thousands of inscriptions at a time capability. And that's what powers Quadkey underneath. So we wanted to like battle test that. So we're basically focusing on that product. And then after that, I was kind of hoping that maybe some people would like take the endpoint and be like, here's additional like features to Quadkey. Here's like we're gonna overlay like additional mapping software onto the API and like roll out an additional standard. And that really hasn't happened. But what we've set Quadkey up to do is we can at any time go back and dramatically improve and add to the feature set. We've built it so that structurally in that envelope, we can trigger in Quadkey recursive inscription. So if you like at a future feature we might do is like if you own a Quadkey, if you want to inscribe a Quadkey, you can upload a file, any file, text, data, 3D, whatever, and it can be attached or embedded and displayed within that Quadkey. That's something we can do quite trivially. We actually structure, if you look at the actual enveloping structure of the Quadkey, you see this in there. You see it already kind of setting, ready to flip on, were we to spend some development time on that. But what I think is actually really interesting, and this is kind of one of the fun ideas behind Quadkey, is actually, and we do not promise we will build this, but this is something we may build because it's really fucking cool, is a type of gamified mechanism, kind of like Ingress, which is an old Google like land capture game where Google had this thing where it would connect to your mobile device and you would actually go by being in a physical place somewhere, actually kind of heat up a specific area of the earth and then capture various quadrants and regions on the earth. And this is something we talked about. We'd have to spend a lot of development time on it and to build it. But we've thought about this. Like Quadkey, we specifically chose the sizing of the Quadkeys to be a reasonable thing where the average person could like go on a walk or go to the park and like capture those Quadkeys versus someone else. Now, this is not necessarily a novel idea. This is the same. A lot of people have done things like this. What did Ingress, that Google product, grow to be? That product ended up being purchased by the Pokemon IP and becoming Pokemon Go. And so we're not building that. This is something we would love to see someone else build. And if we come to a time when we're like, what do we build now? Because this is like pretty much what we do is like, what's the next thing we build? Well, we have Quadkey. We can then perhaps expand its feature set. Maybe we just trickle a little bit of like extra like kind of personality to the Quadkeys. We overlay some like features. This is a forest. This is a railroad. This is whatever. This is a government site. That's an easy thing to do. We can do that. Give us a week, but we are focusing on stuff right now. Down the road, we can do these really interesting, like gamified mapping techniques. What I would love to see, and we're not currently in discussion on this, but I would love to be in discussion on this with any counterparty. I would love to partner with someone to build on Quadkey. Love to partner on specifically like notable intellectual property and brands who want to build something like Pokemon Go, but on Quadkey. Imagine real like real interesting novel intellectual property which wants to put something on Bitcoin. and we can just say, we have this tool, we have this standard, we have everything for Quadkey ready to go. Let us evolve it further, and let us evolve it for you. So not saying this has to be some like Disney partnership. I'm saying like it could be just like a fun game. But Quadkey is the base. And Quadkey does not have to be developed in the next month, but it could be developed in the next 3 to 6 months. We could add a bunch of stuff to it. And we're kind of letting it run for now. We've we went to Lisbon, Portugal. Couldn't like actively keep the momentum on it, but I mean, it's still there. We're still going. People still get quad keys every day, and when we build stuff, if you've been buying quad keys, then you'll be disproportionately positioned to do more stuff on it. So that's the idea. I hope we try to be clear that like we are not trying to launch right now this like giant grand quad key vision. This is a step-by-step thing, which each month or two we like may add something to it. A year from now, it may be our leading kind of like development product, but we are trying new stuff. So what's funny is right after we released Quadkey, Casey immediately just fucking 180s and is like, we're gonna throw meta protocols on Ordin. I was like, Casey, I think he did that because I think he did that because he was like, oh shit, Charlie and Cypher are like putting like meta protocol like stuff into their envelope. I think that was a reactionary decision. Because I think he wanted to do it, but whatever, we can do it now. I'm glad it's part of meta protocol thing in the Ord envelope. It's fun. The thing is, a lot of people think that there's like this giant group chat, and the reality is there's like 50 group chats, all with different people, and nobody agrees with each other. There's not really any design to all this. We're all throwing shit at the wall, and I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't trade it for anything else. So yeah.
Like I actually envisioned it like that too, like with the branding and type of approach with quad keys. Have you thought about like kind of like actual physical like build like locations or like business corporate owned like businesses and entities that you could partner with to do things like interactive? For example, like I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So what I did instantaneously is I bought the PGA headquarters. Because that's new. And I was like, an interactive type of application that they could have would be like, I don't know, like a interactive golf or something, just something, right? So just my mind kind of spinning, but like, so you guys have already kind of thought about that, right?
We have. Imagine this. This is something which I haven't seen done before. This is actually entirely a novel idea. So I talked about this like quad key capture, this like quadrant capture type game, right? What if you plugged this game directly into a marketplace where are you familiar with like the bid ask new features on like Ordinals Market, or I think Magic Eden has it? You can just bid on any inscription, right? What if the heat map were not just like, because people already own quad keys, like you can't just go steal someone's quad key, right? Like they own it, you can't own it.
That would suck.
You own it. It's inscription. What if the capture game were directly monetized, and if you went and let's say someone went, you've got the PGA Dallas, whatever. So someone goes over there and like starts capturing over a duration like one of those quad keys, but instead of like them owning it, rather the price of that asset, like a heat map, heats up on one of these marketplaces, and to a point where you're like, oh shit, like it went from like $10 to like $80. I might sell it. Imagine the monetization gets embedded directly into the actual game itself, where people want to actually get captured or heat themselves up, or like heat up, like get their squares or quad keys like desirable. you could go then do that to other people. But imagine, are you familiar with the Harbinger tax? The Harbinger tax, if you look at Eric Wall's Orb, it's an ETH, it's a new type of ETH NFT, which costs money to own. So it's like if you bought it for 1 ETH, you got to pay 1% of the sale price every day. And like it's kind of like a tax for ownership. Imagine an additional like layer on top of this where you had what's called the Harbinger tax embedded into the Quadkey, where the more of these assets you have, the more you have to like pay to like maintain them. Now, this doesn't happen on the base layer. Imagine we migrate this, upgrade this to like we create a whole like second layer game, and everybody's like, okay, bring your assets into the game. You have it. You start with all the quad keys that you've acquired. And now, in order to enter the game, you have this kind of ongoing Harbinger tax system, which is embedded into the heat mapping. So if somebody is capturing your quad keys, it actually ups your ongoing Harbinger tax. And so now it costs you more, kind of like real estate, in order to maintain and own it. So it becomes this directly like monetizable financial like game, which is both like resembling the real world without all the weird paperwork and stuff. And it's like like the zone capture game. The thing is, like with blockchains and with these like native digital assets, we can do all this crazy stuff. You don't have to own the PGA golf course. You don't have to own, a skyscraper in Dallas. You can just mimic all that on top of this, and it's already like directly connected to the financials, your own financial book. And that's one of those like crazy things. These are just some of the crazy ideas we have, and it's kind of like what makes sense at this time to build, and then we're going to build it.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Quadkey. I'm in Philly, so I own like most of Philly.
Yeah.
So it's been fun just to do that, and I love your ideas. Everything you just said was like, let's fucking go, like, let's build. So that's really cool, and again, that could you already have a built-in community. I'm a community member, and someone come over here who doesn't want to build their own community, but just wants to build a product. They can hop right in Quadkey, and I think that's pretty amazing.
Well, I'll just tell you that like if and probably when we add stuff to it, we're not gonna really tease it. It's just gonna drop, and it could be in 3 weeks or it could be in 4 months.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna guarantee anything. I'm just gonna say it's like one day it's like, okay, here's the next thing. And so we don't promise utility. We just say this is a really cool product. We are some of the best developers in the ecosystem. We also have unique skill sets as Bitcoin miners and block producers. We're gonna build cool shit, and Quadkey is one of the first things we've done. There'll be others.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
So other developers, how could they get involved? Because this isn't like an open source type deal, is it?
Well, it is. You could inscribe a Quadkey if you want, but the easiest way to do is we have an API available on our site. If you go to ordinalhub.com/developer, you can you can get a free API key, and in that API key we include the base data for Quadkey, so you can get an index of all the quad keys, and you can just be like, okay, I'm gonna add all this random stuff to Quadkey that I think should be there. And so that's out there. I would like to push that more. Unfortunately, Casey decided to bring up the renumbering thing. So like all of my time is spent talking about that.
Yeah.
And all our developers' time is spent like figuring out how to do it. One of the things people don't know is if we renumber, we have to basically rebuild our entire like client base. So like me having this opinion about renumbering means like we lose a month of development time.
Yeah.
And so like I don't really talk about that very much because like it's not good business to be like it's gonna like hamstring us. This is just like my opinion, and it costs us like real money to have this opinion. So but I deviate. What I'm saying is like yeah, if you are a developer and you want to do anything with Quadkey,
Yeah.
hit me up directly. Hit up Sci4. We'll provide you an endpoint for free, and you can build whatever you want.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think some people
awesome.
will probably be open to that because you see like how people kind of took the whole bitmap thing and went off. And so I think this could be like a new challenge for developers too, right?
Yeah.
To say, what can we do with Quadkey? And I think it'd be very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys are docs. You guys are, you have companies
We're-
and stuff like that. So working with someone like that is definitely, beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. We are a well-respected, incorporated company. I'm a real person, not too far from Fort Worth, weirdly enough. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll actually be in
All right.
Fort Worth in a few weeks to do some business.
Oh,
Oh,
nice,
mining.
nice.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this has been amazing, absolutely amazing. We usually go an hour. We're going an hour and a half, and we
Yeah.
appreciate your time. And we know you're very busy, and it's getting late, so we'll end it here. But before we do, we usually like to give our guests the stage for a few minutes, and you can kind of talk about whatever you want. The stage is yours.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Spears, CB Spears. I do a lot of my own proprietary mining. But I work for Luxor, and I think you'll be hearing a lot of Luxor in the next couple weeks. We'll be making some announcements of some very interesting partnerships,
Oh,
which I think will be
nice.
very popular. And Ordinal Hub is the Ordinals kind of side of the business. Go to OrdinalHub.com. It's very good for ecosystem aggregation, price tracking, collection tracking. OrdinalHub.com is undergoing an overhaul. I have not even announced this yet, so this is the first time people are hearing about this. Undergoing an overhaul to focus on um, like what I call the services side of the business. We're going to be providing deep technical data products and maybe the stuff that's not as like degen focused, but like more like business focused. So go check that out. And then if you have questions about how inscriptions work or just education, I do a weekly roundup on our YouTube, youtube.com/ordinalhub. And we do educational videos on our YouTube. That'll help. Typically, we just kind of live stream. Let's roll tape. Let's do some code review of, say, the Ord repo, or we actually went through the Casey's Runes GitHub repo to kind of try to make sense of that. So these are things we do. If you follow me, Sci4 and OrdinalHub on Twitter, you'll get a lot of hot takes. But at least like we're honest and we care about this ecosystem, and we're not going anywhere. I think a year from now we'll all be rich. Bitcoin will be at 100K, and all of our disagreements will have subsided, and we'll all go see you guys in Cabo.
Nice. Sounds good.
Absolutely amazing, and thank you so much. And we'd love to do a round two. Whenever you have updates or anything, please just get in my DMs and we'll get you right on.
You bet. I'll be tuning in regularly when I have time.
We
Appreciate it, man.
appreciate that. We appreciate every single view, every single one. So thank you so much.
You bet.
All right. Have a good
See you
one.
guys. Peace. Yeah, well, absolutely amazing. I love that dude. He's freaking awesome, dude. That was a really good conversation. Interested all the way to the end, and I hope you guys are interested too. If you like what you hear, please hit the like, please hit the sub. We appreciate you guys for listening. Like I just said, we appreciate every single view, and we're over here just televising the revolution, baby.
Yeah, for sure. And these are the interviews and conversations and discussions. I think that you can really just dive into, how some of these people that are in these developer communities, think, right? So really loved his insight, man, like that experience that he has with Bitcoin and with the mining and all that stuff. Like we could have talked for another 2 hours probably,
Easy. Yep.
stuff. But yeah, it was awesome, dude.
Yep. And remember, we can do spaces every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Check us out. It's all about Bitcoin builders. So we appreciate you guys tuning into that and come in, let's talk to builders. But besides that, let's get out of here. See you guys.
Peace.